Thanks for joining me for this edition of the Author's Corner, brought to you by KNEO 91.7 FM The Word. I'm Roberta Foster, and today I welcome Ray Moore. The name on his book is E. Ray Moore. He has written the book, Let My Children Go, Why Parents Must Remove Their Children from the Public Schools Now. It's published by Gilead Ministry, and he'll tell you more about how to find the book at the end of the program. Here's a little bit about Ray. He is has served for 50 years in pastoral ministry as a campus pastor, a congregational minister, an army chaplain, or director of a Christian ministry. He is passionate about reaching Christian parents with the message of K through 12 Christian education and homeschooling. He currently serves as president of Frontline Ministries, which focuses on prayer, revival, and K-12 Christian education and homeschooling. And he is also scriptwriter and executive producer of the July 2015 released film, Escaping Common Core, Setting Our Children Free. And Ray, thank you so much for being with us on Author's Corner.
Thank you, Roberta, and I'm glad to see a program that really takes Christian books seriously. I do a lot of interviews, and sometimes the writing of Christian leaders is neglected. So kudos to you for having the good sense and the spiritual maturity to take this type of program.
Absolutely. We are privileged and encouraged to find people that are standing up for Christian education. So for the last 30 years, you've been writing and endeavoring to persuade Christian parents to get their children out of government schools and into homeschooling or private education. So what has happened, or why is this your passion that's been going on continuously for 30 years?
We start with a belief, and we think it's scriptural, theologically sound, that the scriptures give the jurisdiction of education to the family and to the church and not government. So that's where we start, that the government really has no jurisdiction to educate children at the K through 12 level. Unfortunately, they've been the dominant one doing it for the last 170 years in America. And a lot of people don't know that public schooling, as we know it today, is only about 170 years old. For the first 200 years of American history, all education at the K-12 level was offered by campus Christian schools, community schools, homeschooling, and private associations. And the state governments were not involved. In 1840 is when it began in Boston, and it spread like a cancer throughout the United States. After that, so by the turn of the 20th century, state-run public schools was the absolute dominant model. So we're trying to correct that by going back to the biblical model, which is also the American model.
Well, in your book and on page 97, you were talking about how quickly the failure to educate children properly affects the future generations. So give us some insight onto how that happens.
Well, I think basically happened when the churches and families surrendered their right or obligation to educate. And it started around, we dated around 1840. And even for many, many decades later, the public schools were not as bad as they could have been. They're not as bad as they are today. I finished high school in 1961, and we still had chapel once a month in a public school, and we had prayer and Bible reading every day in homeroom in a public school. Of course, it was 1962 and 63 when the infamous prayer and Bible reading decisions took place at the U.S. Supreme Court. So it really started down rapidly in 1962 and 63.
Talk to us about how quickly, from one generation to the next, if you don't have a Christian education or a Christian worldview, that the next generation doesn't get it either.
Yeah, I think Ronald Reagan said that freedom can be lost in one generation. So it doesn't happen over a couple of hundred years. It happens over a generation. And we see many Christian families that have pagan children. They put their children in public schools, and the children don't even pretend to follow the faith of mom and dad. And this is one reason we're seeing such a huge attrition. And secularism is growing. There's a new category called the nuns, which means they don't believe in anything. Christianity is being eroded because of public education. You can't put your kids in an environment where Christ is not named and the Bible is not the foundational textbook. I think Proverbs, I don't quite have the source, a reference, but it's Proverbs that says that only by the knowledge of God will men depart from evil. So if you create a system where God is not known, then you get a culture like that.
Right. All right, well, we're talking today with Ray Moore regarding his book, Let My Children Go, Why Parents Must Remove Their Children from the Public Schools Now. It's published by Gilead Ministry, and you're listening to Author's Corner, and I'm Roberta Foster. Well, as devastating as going through the whole COVID thing was back in 2019 and 20, it really spurred on the homeschool movement. Tell us why that happened. What was the benefit toward getting out of public education from COVID?
Well, it was a silver lining in an otherwise dark cloud. We were telling families and Americans and churches for decades before that what was happening in the school system, public school system, but I think many just didn't believe it. They didn't see it, they didn't experience it, and they thought maybe we were making it up. And so when the public schools closed for that period of time, I think it was about a year, and their children were home, they were attempting to bring public school through the internet into the home. They tried to tell the parents not to look at the curriculum and not to look at what they were doing because they knew they would turn them away. And they were bringing, I had to say pornography, but it was a pornography-like curriculum. Sex education and some of the terrible things that they're doing in public school was coming right into the home through the computer, and mom and dad were just horrified. And what is this coming into my home? We knew a church here in town that was they were using the church for a place where the children could go to school at the church, and they were using everything was public schooling. It wasn't a Christian school. It was just they were using the facilities because mom and dad had to go to work. And I guess some of the people on the staff were just shocked and horrified that this was coming into their church.
Yes.
This poison, godless curriculum. So that awoke a lot of people up. And then also what happened was that parents were having to homeschool, and they were doing a better job. And they said, look, why do we want to put Johnny and Mary back in the school when we're doing a better job at home? So it gave a real impetus to our movement. That was, around 2020, and there was a big jump, and many families just did not send their kids back. Now, it wasn't enough, but it was still several million, and today it's just continued to grow, so that we think there could be 5 million children at the upper level that are being homeschooled, and hundreds of new campus Christian schools are forming. We work with a group that's starting 40 right now. 40, in the hangar, getting, hopefully getting ready to launch. And we see other groups that are doing the same thing. So we think that hundreds of new schools are being formed, even as I speak. And then, of course, homeschooling is growing as well. Hard to know the percentage, but it could be 15 to 17% of the total, but it's growing exponentially. There's a group that does research on education, and I think it's not a Christian group, it's a secular group that studies trends, good and bad trends, and they are predicting, this is called the Learning Council, COUNSEL, and I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going from memory, that they predict by 2030, which is about 4 years from now, and this prediction was made last year, 2020 or 2025, I believe, that by 2030, that 30% of all children will be homeschooled, and 20% will be in private Christian or parochial schools, with only 50% of children left in public schools. And that's pretty amazing, and it's growing that fast. And if it keeps growing, we could reach a tipping point where we will actually, perhaps the state would surrender and say, look, we're not going to do it anymore. We're wasting money, tax money. We need to use the money we have, our tax money, on paving roads, picking up the garbage, and arresting the criminals. And we're going to let you churches and pastors and families do education, because you do a better job. We're not doing a very good job. That could happen. It might be 10 years away, but that's what we want to happen. And we call it a tipping point, where you have a sudden move into a whole new paradigm.
Well, you have a lot more faith that the public education system would actually admit to being wrong than I do.
I think a lot of them know it's wrong.
Yeah. Well, this is true, but
their income depends on it, so they keep it up.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of income, one of the things that hinders some families from going into, say, a private school situation is the finances, the income that they have to have in order to be able to do that. So what's your take on the whole school voucher proposals?
We're very wary of the voucher. How something is funded is one of the most important things about its existence. And so if a private Christian schools start taking government money, vouchers, and in some cases homeschoolers as well, will circle back around, and over a period of time they will become public schools because they've got public funding.
Right.
And so we think it's a dangerous trend, and it's really not necessary. There's enough funding in the churches and families that they can take care of it themselves. I think there's $60 to $80 billion in philanthropy every year, and most of that goes to higher ed. And if we just redirected a half of it to K-12, we could fund the system. Of course, private education is a lot cheaper than public education. I think some states it's $15,000 a year to educate a child, but if you were in a homeschool or a private Christian school, you could do it for a lot less. Homeschooling is dirt cheap. You can probably homeschool your whole family for $1,000 a year. So socialism drives up costs and quality down. And so because it's a socialistic model, that is public education, and socialism means the government ownership of services, which public education is one, and the means of production. It's a faulty model. It's a bad model. It never works, and it always harms those who participate. So we think that schooling should be on the free market, just like anything else that works well in society.
Okay. Well, as I had mentioned in your bio, you've been involved in producing a number of films, and one of them is called Educated for Liberty. Tell our listeners how they can find out more about that film and where they can find out more about your writings and your book.
That's the latest thing that we've done, and I was a consultant. I wasn't the principal, but they came to me for some of the arguments, and it's a case that I make, and I speak in it 3 times. And it's only been out 6 weeks, and it's free online right now. Any of your audience can go and watch it. It is a little long. It's an hour and 40 minutes, but it's segmented into 6 segments at 20 minutes apiece. And the title of the movie, it's a film, a documentary, is educatedforliberty.com. Educatedforliberty.com.
Okay.
And I have it posted on my webpage, but they can go there without going to my webpage. But I'd like people in your audience to go to my webpage. It's exodusmandate.org, exodusmandate.org. And it's the very top item on my webpage is that movie, and they can watch it. And we hope that they'll get it shown in their churches and in their congregation, particularly try to get your pastor to look at it. It's not so much for individuals, but for group settings. And we're hoping to get 10 million views in the next year. Educatedforliberty.com, and it's posted on my webpage also at exodusmandate.org.
Wonderful. So one more time, the book we've been chatting about today is called Let My Children Go, Why Parents Must Remove Their Children from the Public Schools Now. And I've been talking with E. Ray Moore. And so, Ray, thank you so much for being with us today. And I want our listeners to realize that he has agreed to talk with me about another of his books called The Promise of Jonadab. So that will be broadcast the week following, and same place, same time next week. So, Ray, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Roberta, for having me, and I appreciate what you're doing, particularly your emphasis on good Christian books.
And to our listeners, if you missed any part of today's interview or would like to hear it again, you could now find it on your favorite podcast platform or through kneo.org. So thank you so much for tuning in. This is Roberta Foster on the Author's Corner. Join me again next time.